Good evening, everybody. It's 7:01. We're going to, I would say, give about 4 more minutes. I don't know, other people may try to get in, so I would say we'll probably start in about 4 minutes.
Good evening, Pat.
Good evening.
It's nice to see you.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. The meeting has not begun yet. Could you please mute yourself?
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is a phony process. Can I speak against this upzoning?
Sir, the meeting has not been convened by the chair. Could you please remain muted?
Oh, sure. I just want to know when I could speak against this Franklin Avenue.
I think we've reached a cap of 100 people for Zoom. And I think the rest will be live on Facebook. Am I correct? Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people who don't have Facebook.
Okay, but I'm just saying, this is where the,
I'm on
There's
phone.
laws that require these meetings to be open to the public.
excuse me,
A lot of people don't have Facebook.
and I hear you, but my point is, right now, we have a cap of 100. And I just want to say that we are going to start. Nolan, are you? I can't see everybody, but Nolan, are you around?
I'm here. Also, I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the Facebook link is available to anyone, even if you don't have a Facebook profile, you can still watch the video.
Right. I'm not sure how you,
But we do need to make sure that that someone is monitoring it so we can record any questions or comments that are coming up there.
I don't support Facebook. I'm against that.
excuse me, who are
I
these
can't
people?
understand the
Whoa.
speaker.
Let me just make myself clear for all the people that really don't know me. My name is Pat
Can I
Moses.
sign in? Who's talking now?
I can't understand the speaker.
Okay, I'm gonna ask everybody to mute themselves, please.
Ms. Moses, if you would like to elect for anyone disrupting the meeting to be removed, just so that people who are here for information can actually obtain it, that is your call.
I
Yeah.
just want to know that's in violation of the open meetings law. You cannot remove anybody from a public meeting. This is a public meeting. I'm just putting that on the record. This is a
We
public.
can't get through that. So I would like everyone to respect the chair and respect the meeting.
Oh, let me put it to you this way. Let me put it to you this way.
Thank you.
If let's talk about the rules of order. The rules of order is this is not a debate situation here. This is a regular ULURP meeting. Okay, regular ULURP meeting. And according to the open meeting law, you know, people can listen to what the meeting is about. Now, during this meeting, we do allow people to speak. But at the end of the day, we ask that people respect other people. We do not talk over each other. When it is time for people to speak, and I call out for community residents concerned, you can put your name into the chat box. But we do follow an agenda. And
Where's
I'll
the
tell you,
agenda? Can we speak against this project?
excuse me, you can't speak at all now, just listen. And the second thing is when it is your time to speak and you put your name in the chat box, then we will try to take you in that order. I will definitely try to respect everybody, and I expect everybody here to respect others. This is not the meeting for the arguments. This is not, I just want to be clear. This is not a public hearing. Let's understand this is just a regular ULURP meeting. And what we're here to discuss things that we kind of left hanging out there. So we will definitely, if we can, allow
Can you move this
people
along?
to speak. Excuse me?
Can you move this along?
Who are you? You can move out. Because I want to be respected the same way you want to be respected. So whoever you are, you can move out if you don't want to listen to what we have to say. So now let's move on. Again, I don't want to sound rude to anybody, and I don't want anybody to disrespect other people. Again, I want to welcome all of our committee members and our guests, which is our community guests. And again, for those community people that have been attending our meetings on a regular basis, you know that we try to move it along, we try to be fair. So we are going to go by the agenda here. And I'm not sure how many committee members. Nolan, can you just do a roll call for me? Because I'm not sure how many committee members I have here.
Sure. Okay, I'm just gonna go through the list. Let me know
Yes.
if you're here. Chair,
Well, they will be able to say if they're here, right? Would they
yes.
be okay.
Chair Fred Baptiste,
Present.
present. Warren Burke,
Here.
Suki Chung,
Here.
Nicola Cox,
Here.
John Craver,
Here.
Esteban Hiron,
Here.
Nolan Levinson, that's myself, I'm here. Patricia Moses,
Here.
Richard Villabrea Jr. Richard, are you here? Aaron Brown. Aaron Brown here, and Thomas we know is not here. He's excused.
I am. I am here.
Oh, you are here.
I
Great.
am.
Here?
Yes, I was
Oh.
able to make it.
Oh, great, great. That's wonderful. Okay, so we have officially started. Alicia, you're first on the agenda on the old business. The TRO court update for 960
Yeah.
Franklin Avenue project.
Ms. Hilton, I gave you, because we're doing an update and we're also, this is supposed to be an opportunity for the community to know what's going on. I did a small presentation for this update. So if you could please bring it up, Ms. Hilton.
How long is your presentation?
It should be no more than 5 minutes. What the community needs to know, we filed the lawsuit and against 2 development sites. The smaller development site, we won that case on the merits of it. And the second one, we filed a lawsuit in November when the city was saying that no adverse effects will happen to the garden. As a result of filing that lawsuit, the city turned around and changed their mind, stated that adverse effects will happen to the garden. And then they certified the application on February the 1st. We filed another set of papers, which ended up with a TRO because we were complaining about exactly what's happening here. And that is that the city and the community board is not prepared to sit there and host an open meeting that will allow everyone to be present at the meeting. Would you like to, can you bring up the presentation, please?
Sharing my screen. Just let me know when we want me to go to the next slide.
I'm not seeing the slides.
I think we just see the files, not the
Files.
slides.
Sorry, hold on.
Mhm.
And so this presentation is actually going to be working with the Parks Committee, who also did work. One of the aspects of the lawsuit was to look for the restrictive declaration.
Hold
We're
on.
looking for this particular document because
Ms. Boyd, just give me 1 second,
Hold on,
please.
Ms. Boyd. And Ms. Boyd, let me ask you just one question. When you say Parks Committee, which Parks Committee are you speaking of?
the Parks and Cultural and the Parks Cultural,
I can't hear who's,
Parks, Recreation, and Culture.
right, with Julia.
Okay. So it's not the, okay, so it's the Parks.
Right, this is both of us, just the Parks is also presenting with me.
Oh, okay, got it.
So as soon as she's able,
Give me 1 moment. Just give me 1 moment. Hold on. Miss Bryant, would you like to share it? I'm having some technical issues over here. Or is Nicola available? I know that she has it as well.
Oh, no, Nicola has a different one. I have it, and I don't know, you have to, I guess, make me a host or something, and
I
then
gave
can
you
put it up.
the capabilities just now.
Okay, dear, I'm doing it now. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna close this out. Just give us 1 second, Ms. Boyd,
okay, thank you. Ms.
and I'll be right back because I'm having
So-
some technical issues.
Well, Ms. Boyd, while you're waiting on your presentation, you can still let us know where we're at in the court.
Right,
whether
so-
we,
so
standing
what-
still or.
So one of the issues was that we needed to get this restrictive declaration page because it is essential to understanding the project. So we had FOIL, we did freedom of information requests to the city. And then the city refused to give it to us. What the city kept giving us was a blank declaration page with very little information. Exhibits were missing. And So what you might want to do, Julia, is first bring it up and then share it. Because that normally is, we can't hear you.
You don't see mine either, because I'm looking at, I think I had the same difficulty that she had. Hold on just a minute. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it now. Okay, so could you go to the next, go to the first page? So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for a full draft restricted declaration. This project is a large-scale industrial manufacturing project designation. And what that means is that the developer is looking for reduced parking as a result of that designation, but it also allows the developer to build like it's a factory instead of a residential complex. So that means is they can put the buildings together. There's no height limit on it. And they don't have all of the restrictions that if you were building a large residential development project, you would have. So one of the questions that obviously we had was, how is it that you're putting a manufacturing industrial development project in our community and it all is residential? Are you violating any laws with that? Because there are some laws about residential, like buildings have to have space in between. There has to be air and light. However, when you're building a factory, those considerations are not taken into consideration because you are not assuming that people will be living there. You just assume people will be working there. One of the other requirements is that all the lots have to be owned by one person. Could you go to the next slide, please? Now, the restrictive declaration, this is the definition of a restrictive declaration. It's a legally binding contract that runs with the land in perpetuity with the development project and the land itself. So it's permanent. A full draft restrictive declaration must be completed before this application has been certified. Now, the application has already been certified, and we have not gotten the full draft restrictive declaration. All of the affordable housing and the daycare and the public open spaces are confined within this restrictive declaration. So whatever the developer claims he's going to give, as far as those community benefits, quote unquote, has to be a part of the restrictive declaration. Also, one of the things is the developer was making the claim that they wasn't going to build all the way up to the 10 FAR, and FAR just means how much you can build. They were making the claim they're only going to build up to 9.7, and again, that will be contained in the restrictive declaration to see if that is true. Anytime a developer wants to build on this property, that restrictive declaration has to be a part of any application that the Department of Buildings uses, because it would be that application that will allow the developer to do or not do certain things, not the zoning laws, but this restrictive declaration. That's why it's a very important document.
Hello.
Okay, and could you go to the next one, please?
I'm in the middle of a meeting, but I'll call you later. Okay.
The restrictive declaration represents the maximum that the development would be allowed to build. It, according to the little bit of the document that we did get, which was not the full draft, was not fully completed, there's going to be 11 buildings. Everybody keeps talking about 2 buildings. No, this development project is 11 buildings, but they did not contain the building plan. So we don't know how these 11 buildings are going to be formulated. And again, it's a part of the restrictive declaration because then they have to conform to that particular way of building. We haven't seen that, so we don't know what it is. You also have height restrictions, or could have height restrictions. You don't know. You have to look at the restrictive declaration because the restrictive declaration will tell you exactly how high these development projects can be, because the zoning that they're asking for has no height limits. And finally, one of the things that we found out was that the lots, they're claiming that the Department of City Planning says that that lots 1, 40, 77, and 85 will not be developed. This is what they claim in their paperwork. However, the restrictive declaration, the one that we got, is lots 40, 77, and 85 as a part of the development project. So there's a lot of discrepancy between what the city is saying is actually going to happen and what we're seeing. That's why we have to see that draft restrictive declaration, because without it, we don't know what's going on. So I'm now gonna pass it over to the parks people,
Julia.
and they'll talk about what they've done.
Okay, so the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee of CB9 met, and we discussed the issue of parkland alienation. So restrictive declaration impacts on public green spaces, which includes the Botanic Garden and Jackie Robinson Playground. Without a restrictive declaration, we don't know the actual height of the building, and the building design will be within the restrictive declaration. So we don't know what this configuration will be. We do not know how the 11 buildings will be built or whatever configuration it will be. The issue of parkland alienation, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee determined that it's not that we determined, but we voted on a statement regarding parkland alienation. It is already a determination that there will be a negative impact which will occur to both green spaces. Any land that is designated as parkland cannot be transformed without the permission of the state. Shadow impacts both of these green spaces. We have spoken with Assemblywoman Farah Safant, and she supports protecting the garden and the playground. The Park, Recreation, and Culture Committee voted to approve a letter requesting from other elected officials to sign on against the development of this project because it would harm both spaces.
Okay.
Next slide.
Now I would like to just talk about the fact that Earth Day is coming up. So people who are conscious about the earth and want to protect our green spaces, there is a citywide protest. We will be protesting in front of BBG to save BBG. You're welcome to come out to that. It's going to start at high noon on April 22nd. That's a Thursday. So please consider coming out and supporting us. And it will be in front of the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens on the Eastern Parkway side.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we can stop sharing, right?
Yes, thank you so much.
Tara had.
I wanted to ask you one. I wanted to ask you one thing, Alicia. In terms of the court order, where are we still? I mean, what's going on? What's happening there?
Well, we are submitting our FOIL request. The judge wanted us to submit a more detailed FOIL request, which we included all the documents that refer back to the draft restrictive declaration so that she can see how important it is. We will be going back to court on the 23rd. There was a statement made by the developers that Community Board 9 took the position that they could not find any place within the community to host in-person virtual hearings, but Fred Baptiste, the chairperson, has continued to state on the record that that's not true, that no one has had a conversation with CB9, but that's what they're saying. And so we will be going back on Friday, the 23rd, to discuss how we can solve this issue.
Who's they? They say.
Well, the developers at the last hearing, developers had willingly agreed to subsidize the community, give money, help with this placement. And then one business day later, they changed their mind and decided, oh no, it's not gonna work. we don't want to do this. We just want to get rid of the temporary restraining order, move this project forward because we are losing money or will lose money if it's not certified within a certain time. So
Okay.
the hearing is not open to the public. Unfortunately, this judge does not want the hearing to be open to the public. Only the parties will be invited.
Really?
So
Yes.
just to clarify, the judge
Excuse
directed.
me. Hello.
Oh, it's Nicola.
This is Nicola.
Oh.
This is Nicola.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to clarify what Alicia is saying about the court order. What the developer had seemed to have agreed to was that they were going to work with the community board, with city planning, to try and find an additional site where people that do not have access, effective access to the internet or Zoom capabilities would be able to participate in person at the hearings when we start the official ULURP process. They were also willing to help pay for and subsidize increasing the Zoom capability so we wouldn't have the problem that we're having today with the 100-person maximum. And then a day later, as Alicia said, it was a complete switch where they no longer wanted to pursue any type of additional Zoom support or in-person support. So we would still have virtual for people who wanted virtual, but for those people that could not participate virtually and wanted to participate to at least hear and see presentations, since we know a lot of our community members dial in to these meetings, this would give them the opportunity to also see what was being presented and ask questions.
Okay. Nicola, you're going to be up next. But before we go to that,
but Tara had a question. I just wanted to. She raised her hand, so.
Yeah, but Tara, I mean, we're not in the section that's specifically talking about community residents' concerns. Now, Tara, is she talking specifically with your group or what?
Well,
we haven't gotten to that yet.
Tara, what is it? The question that you have, or?
I mainly am concerned about people not being able to get into the meeting. I know our block association.
Okay, I'm not dealing with that right now.
People that call in every time and they can't get in. And is there something we can turn on so they can get in? At least the caller, the people that can't watch on the Facebook.
No. We're here. I'm a phone caller and I'm participating.
But they can't get in. People that
okay, excuse me. Right now, we're just going to move on. I'm sorry that a lot of people can't get on, but I can't do anything about that. I wanted to just because I want to move this meeting along because I do want to open it up to the community at some point. But right now, I need to go through our business meeting first. Nicola, you want to share what you have? You're muted. You're muted. Okay, go ahead.
Mia, can you enable screen sharing for me? What I wanted to talk about
Give me 1 second, Nicola.
Okay.
What I want to tell them who you are.
Hi, I'm Nicola Cox. I'm a member of the Land Use Committee. And what I wanted to do as part of our discussion, and Pat, let me know if this is the right time. I wanted to review the 17-story option and the fact that we're still going to have shadow issues with that option. So let me know if this is the right time to talk about it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you could speak about it, but I just want to say something to you that I don't know why people keep talking about 17 stories and something else. What was certified was not 17 stories, so I'm not even dealing with that. I didn't get any paperwork on 17 stories. I mean, that was in their presentation, but it had nothing to do with what we're talking about and what we're voting on. We're voting on that building you're talking about, 34 stories high. So yeah, you can say whatever you want to say, but that's not what we later on in life. That's not what we're going to vote on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how do I have admin? Okay, because you gave me hosting. Okay. I'm letting people in. I'm forgetting it's not my meeting. Sorry. All right, let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, so as Pat mentioned, the developer during their presentation, they presented a 17-story option. And okay, and I just wanted to review, you know, a lot of people may think, okay, because they're going down from 34 stories, oh, that's great, you know, mission accomplished and issue solved. So I just wanted to walk through some of the findings that that we had as part of the Cornell Realty project. That when we were going through that lawsuit and going through that ULURP process, MTOP had commissioned an architecture firm to perform an independent shadow study. So I just wanted to make sure that we just have an idea of what they found with that, with Cornell's project, because I'm not sure, and we got no guarantees from the developer. They presented a 17-story option and they didn't give us any, I did not feel comfortable with the fact that they were really going to conduct a shadow study in relation to an environmental impact related to that particular option. So I just wanted to walk through some of the implications that we found during the Cornell project. Okay, how do I get to the next slide? Okay. All right, so with 17 stories, we would be at an R8X, right? And then the developer, we assume, would be asking for the fresh program. So that would be an additional 15 feet. On top of that, we have the MIH, the mandatory inclusionary housing, that would give them an additional 25 feet. Plus, we would have a bulkhead of about 40 feet since it's a development of more than 12 stories. So in total, we could be looking at buildings that have 235 feet, right? So this is similar to the parameters that we were looking at for the Cornell project. So Schuyler found in their independent shadow study that a building of that size would cast about 3 hours of shadows on the Botanic Gardens, and it would cast 5 hours of shadow on the Jackie Robinson playground. And that's a playground associated with Ebbets Field. For those people that may not know the area, there's a little children's playground near the school, near the Ebbets Field complex. So their conclusion was that due to the level of shadows that would be cast on both areas, plus our community, that a full environmental impact study was recommended. And so we're saying, just without even doing a separate study, given the fact that the Franklin Avenue project is going to be even closer to some of the key portions of the Botanic Gardens, we know that there's going to be a significant impact to the garden and to the community. And so we definitely want to make sure that some type of environmental impact study is pushed forward. Now, as you said, Pat, right now that's not on the table. My concern is that once we get past the community portion of the ULURP process, the developer may add it to the application, and we may never see that application again for approval and review once it gets past us. We don't know what's going to happen when it goes to the Borough Hall and when it goes to City Council.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that the community was clear so that we know that we need to try and put pressure on our elected officials to make sure that a full environmental impact study is performed if they start to consider a 17-story option. Okay,
That's it?
that is it for now.
Thank you. I also, I don't know if anyone else wants to speak. Is the chairperson here from housing? I can't see everybody, so I don't really know. Is our board member chairperson here?
Yes, Alejandra is here.
Oh, because I can't really see her, and
I did see her. She is here. Alejandra?
okay.
I saw her earlier.
Okay, so I guess she's not here because I wanted her to speak.
Yes, she is here. She's here. She's here. I see a picture.
She's here. She may have stepped away from her,
Okay,
her
she may have
screen,
stepped away,
but
okay.
not responding.
All right, so again, right now I'm just dealing with my committee members. Does anyone else of my committee members want to say anything at this point?
I can.
Who's speaking?
Esteban?
Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, unless Alejandra chimes in here, I can talk a little bit about the options that they gave in terms of affordability of the units. I think what I'll do is I'll put this link in the, for anyone who hasn't seen this lovely site that they
Well, she's
created.
here. I see her. But you can go ahead and finish.
All right. If you want to go to that link and scroll down to where it says, scroll down to the 34-story proposed building. And I just want folks to pay attention to the actual numbers here. Look down to where it says 120% AMI. 158 of these units that are being touted as affordable housing are going to be $2,979 for a 2-bedroom and $1,985 for a studio. That is above market rate for this neighborhood. The next one up from that, 158 units, 2,467 for a 2-bedroom, 1,643 for a studio, also above market rate for this neighborhood. The only one that starts to get near market rate, but still a little more expensive than, I live right across the street, so I know what the market rate is, another 158 units for 1,878 for a 2-bedroom and 1,250 for a studio. I pay $990 for a 1-bedroom across the street in a regular apartment. That means that only the 315 units out of this project will potentially be even slightly below market rate. So what we're talking about is not affordable. And so like, I think it's important that we be clear about the fact that 315 units may be closer to affordable than you know, the overall goal, but like, this is not a half affordable building. This is at best a 1/4 affordable. And that's for people that are making like, you know, I mean, $51,000 for a family of 3 that it says there, like that's not a lot of people in this particular part of Southern Crown Heights. So I just want to make sure that we're clear there. I also want to make sure that folks know during the presentation, and I can also put this, I can also put the link for this. During the presentation in February, we were shown some renderings that showed the 34-story buildings, the 17-story buildings, and then as of right. This is an article in the city. If you scroll down, you'll see a rendering that says a schematic plan of the proposal, and that's the 34 stories. They were trying to sell the 17-story alternative, which is the next little thing down there. But this is actually pretty disingenuous to do, because if you look next to there where it says 42 to 45 Crown Street, and then Tivoli Towers, and then 931 Carroll Street, 931 Carroll Street and 40 Crown Street are no longer on the table. Like, they're appealing, but it's really a tough appeal. Like, we won that. So those are not even buildings right now. What they're trying to do is make it seem like this is all going to like sort of blend together, but it's not. Now, if you scroll down to the as of right, that seems to actually make a whole lot more sense with the neighborhood. That's the way that this was zoned to protect the garden. Maximum building height is 70 feet. No shadows on the playground, no shadows on the garden, and those buildings are still not there. It's just Tivoli, and then have a field across the street. So I just want to make sure that we're looking at this like, with clear eyes. And the last thing I'll say is, I appreciate the union folks that are here, but this project is going to be union regardless of which of these three options are used. And so it would be good to speak with whoever's leading up your campaign and find out what we can do to make sure that all the benefits that are included in the better option, quote unquote, are also included in the other. But this was financed by the retirement fund of the AFL-CIO. This is mandated to be union regardless of what happens with this vote, regardless. The money came from the AFL-CIO. Your union jobs are secured. So I want to make sure that we know that and that we figure out why there's still a push to push for a larger building at this point if we're still going to have union jobs. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Carbella, a union, oh my God. A housing chair?
Yeah. So at our past meeting and the meeting prior, we had a discussion about the particular impact of the AMI and affordability numbers and what that would actually mean in terms of hard numbers of which apartments would go to who and how much the income of the person would be. If you can, I could just quickly give a 5-minute presentation of the one that I did at the housing committee.
You got the floor.
Okay. Are you able to make me a host so I can, okay. Okay, so we can just skip this. So I just, specifically in terms of the housing committee, the only thing that we focused on was the housing aspect in terms of looking over the actual proposed or the proposal. And the only one we looked at was the one that was brought before us that was certified. There's the 17-story compromise version that, we're not really going to look at because it's not what's been certified and what's before us. So just a quick recap of what mandatory inclusionary housing is. It's a zoning tool used by the Department of City Planning and HPD that allows the city to have leverage to get affordable housing, and I say that in quotes, in exchange for zoning outside the context of the immediate area. In a sense, what it allows it to do is developers get to rezone a property higher than it would normally be allowed to in exchange for creating more affordable housing. So some of the quick pros and cons of this is that on the pro side, you create more affordable units. Again, it depends on the definition of affordable and affordable for who. It creates a greater overall supply of housing. You get more economic development and increase of commercial space. However, there's a significant cost to the mandatory inclusionary housing. You get buildings that are out of context with the neighborhood. You get buildings like this that are 37 stories, and most of the neighborhood is zoned for 8 floors. It's over 4 times the size of what any other building is allowed to be. The AMI, which stands for area median income, which is what I'll go over in a minute, as the basis for affordability is a deeply flawed metric. This metric includes the incomes of people in Westchester, Rockland, Suffolk, Nassau County, and doesn't really reflect the immediate income of the people in Crown Heights or the immediate area that's being developed. Another consideration is that developers often skimp on the affordable units. They have lower floors, cheaper materials, and there's often been worries about potential pour doors. In addition, there's increased displacement of local long-time residents, and then how these affordable units are even distributed among the residents. It's usually done through lottery distribution, and often favors those who need affordable housing the least. People in middle income or upper middle income are more likely to win the lottery and get these units than people who are low income or ultra low income who desperately need this housing. So in effect, oftentimes this subsidizes moderate to high middle income housing without providing for actual housing for low income folks. So this is the numbers pulled from the certification. This breaks out the actual hard number of units and the percentage of total units and the median income. The following slide will have the actual numbers to compare, but essentially half under this proposal, half of it would be affordable housing, quote unquote, with 20% of the housing going to 50% AMI, which is about 315 units, and then 10% going to 80% AMI, then 10% to 100% AMI, and then 10% to 120% AMI. And so as you can see, the vast majority of the so-called affordable units would go to people making 80% of AMI or higher. And the way that these actual lotteries break down the housing or the income, it's actually a very wide range, and it's not a very narrow one. So you can often get people who are closer to 100% AMI who end up getting the 80% AMI housing. It's a bit all over the place. And so in terms of what this actually means in terms of dollar amounts, because I think it's really important for people to understand what AMI means in dollars and cents. So I'm just going to use a sample family of 4, 2 parents and 2 children, right? So a 4-person family size for a 50% AMI is $56,000 for a household of 4. And so that's 20% of the units is going to people, you know, generally making less than $60,000 for a family of 4. Which if you include minimum wage, that's 2 parents working full-time at minimum wage, and that's about 50% of AMI. Now, when you look at some of the higher incomes, you can quickly see how this spirals up to people who often don't need affordable housing. For 120% of AMI, which is 10% of the total units, you're talking about for a family of 4, an income of $136,000, which is a significant amount of money compared to the average income for people in Crown Heights. And so when you look at the actual income bands and you start to see that, you know, the same amount of housing would be for 100% of AMI and above as there would be for 50%, you're talking about families making 6 figures into the hundreds of thousands, $100,000 plus. And so you quickly see that this really targets middle income and closer to upper middle income rather than low income folks. So again, just to give a brief definition of what AMI is, it's defined by the federal government, by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So when you see the income bands, 50% and lower is considered very low income. And then when you get lower than 30%, extremely low income. So even by HUD's definitions, most of the housing, the 80, 100, 120% would be aimed towards moderate to middle income rather than low income folks. And so again, as I was mentioning before, the AMI is aggregated from the entire metropolitan area. This includes New York City, Westchester, Rockland counties, Suffolk, Nassau, basically the entire metropolitan area. So all the wealthy areas, all of that is aggregated together. So AMI is deeply flawed because it doesn't reflect what the immediate community has in terms of its income. And so in terms of our review of the project in terms of the housing impact, some of the key takeaways is that most of the affordable housing isn't aimed towards the low income folks, and only 40% of the affordable units is actually aimed at people with low income at 50% of AMI or lower, whereas a significant portion is aimed at moderate to middle income. And these are some more of the key takeaways. And then just finally, the last of the key unknowns. There are no details from the developers on the sizes of the apartments. We don't know if these are going to be studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. We know that there's a huge need for 3-bedroom apartments, particularly for 4 to 5 size family units, particularly people who have 2, 3 children. Those kinds of apartments are oftentimes extremely unaffordable for folks who are low income. And so there's a large need for more 3-bedroom apartments for them. And so, you know, we don't really know what the makeup is going to be. If most of the 50% AMI apartments are going to be studios or 1 bedrooms, then it's, you know, not really going to help out a lot of low income working families. And additionally, there's no guarantee that the affordable units would have equal access to the amenities. Oftentimes buildings like this that have, you know, rooftops and gyms and all these other amenities are not accessible to affordable units, tenants, because they keep it separate. So they might charge a separate amenity fee, which for people who are low income or in these affordable units is already, you know, out of the question. They're not going to be able to do it. The developer at the meeting a few weeks ago or over a month and a half ago said that they would not be treated differently, but within their own presentation, they said that affordable unit tenants would not have access to parking garages. So already there's a concession there that they would, affordable unit tenants would be treated differently. Additionally, there's finally the questionable legality of community preference in housing lotteries. In terms of this aspect, what this means is that these community preference in housing lotteries are being challenged as reinforcing housing segregation and traditional patterns of housing segregation. Oftentimes this is used by effect in upper income and wealthy neighborhoods, such as the Upper East Side, where they build affordable units and then they use community preference to basically block out any folks. So all of those units are going to people who already live in the neighborhood and are already have access to housing there, versus somebody who may be in Brownsville or East New York who is coming out of shelter and desperately needs housing. The person who already has an apartment in the Upper East Side is likely to get that housing over somebody coming out of shelter in a low income type situation. So there are currently lawsuits challenging the legality of community preference. And so while some of the developers may say, well, this would enable, you know, the community to have first access, you know, this is a sword that cuts both ways. While it may help protect residents here in Crown Heights, it is also doing a disservice to residents across the city who are unable to access affordable housing in wealthier areas. And so those are some of the key unknowns. And I'm willing to answer any questions if anyone has any.
We'll take them. Yeah, but I want to finish. You got one question now, because I want to like finish and then we can go back with questions.
Okay.
But go ahead. You want to say something quick?
Yeah, I'll just say something quick. You talked about the workforce option. And so I just want people to be really clear about the workforce option. The workforce option is the option that the developer said that they are going to be applying for. And that is between the 80 to 120% AMI. And that option only lasts for 10 years. So the other 20% is an add-on that HPD will be funding to get that other 20%. So the workforce option is a higher end option. You cannot have subsidies with it, and it only lasts for 10 years.
Okay.
Unless within the restrictive declaration, it says something different.
Which we don't have.
Which we don't have. Thank you.
Before I go, I want to know, is the chairperson here from the environmental committee from our board? I guess not. Okay. So before we move on to the community residents' concerns, I just want to make this really clear, and I keep saying the same thing because I don't want people to misunderstand that this is not a public hearing. So please, when the word gets out, I don't want people to be saying this is a public hearing. It's an open discussion. And before I go to the community, I wanted to know if Richard from the Borough President's office, I think I saw him someplace earlier. I'm not really sure now.
Excuse me, Pat, it's Warren. I am here for the
environmental,
EPC.
right?
Yep.
Okay, we'll take you first, and then if Richard has something to say, we'll take him after that. Go ahead.
Okay, basically at our last meeting, which was about a month and a half ago, we identified the major areas. Our next meeting is next week because of the different holidays. And at that point, we're expected to define the major issues for the environmental committee.
A little too late.
Come on,
Well, Alicia, that has nothing to do with me.
listen, but you just go ahead, keep talking. Alicia, come on now.
No, that's it.
That's it?
Yeah, I mean, we have to identify the issues, which we did, and now we're going to discuss each one. And the important part is that we're trying to, how should I say, juggle Alicia's court order, and we'll go from there. But thank you.
Don't answer, Alicia. Just be quiet now. Mute yourself. Borough President, Richard, are you there somewhere?
Yes, I'm there. I had to turn the camera off because I can't hear right now unless I have the phone next to my ear. Sorry about that. So I just want to clarify the restrictive deck a little bit more. Basically, the restrictive deck comes together as a final document when the council decides to what extent they want to adopt this plan. So if the council doesn't adopt this plan, there's no restrictive deck. City Planning Commission, before they send this to the council, can modify the restrictive deck to a point, because what the restrictive deck is, it basically says the drawings that are tied to the special permit become what you have to work with to build from. A restrictive deck can be modified. If it's a minor modification, it goes before the City Planning Commission. If it's a major modification, it goes back to a full ULURP. So you could deal with a restrictive deck all over again in like 20 years. You can't just make it go away. So if you want to build something separate, you get the zoning. It always comes with the special permit. You can't ignore the special permit and build a totally different development. We have an example of that in Dumbo right now, where the Watchtower got an approval. They ended up flipping the property, and although it didn't become a dormitory complex, they're building apartments within the same envelope of the prior declaration. And the declaration and the special permit drawings, if you don't act within a certain number of years, you actually have to renew it. It's like, I think you get like a 10-year window to build and get permits. Another thing about the restrictive deck, again, the critical thing is the drawings. So the drawings, which the drawings are already public, right? You can see the envelope. The envelope can be squished in many different directions by the City Planning Commission and or City Council. The community board, the borough president, can only recommend modifications to those drawings, or they could recommend not proceeding according to those drawings. The other special permit that the restrictive deck would tie in would be the parking reduction. Again, you could choose at the council or commission to ignore that and say you got to do all the parking. You could choose some fraction of the request. You don't have to accept at the council or commission 100% of the request. So the restrictive deck, going to the drawing, where you see the drawing shows openness and other things like that, the restrictive deck, again, is tied to the drawings. The zoning calculations are a page within the drawings. So the 9.7 FAR is in those drawings. And so since the drawings would be part of the document tied into the property by the restrictive deck, the 9.7, if that's what the council wants to adopt, that's what would happen. If council chooses a lower number, that's what happened. If the council doesn't choose the zoning, the restrictive deck doesn't really matter because it's necessary for the requested zoning, and other zoning options, it may not be relevant. So that's how the restrictive deck ties in. So the document's probably in a rough draft that will frame in. So I would focus on the drawings to understand what is being requested. The bedroom mix is never part of this, unfortunately. What I had noticed is the amount of residential floor area listed in the documents, in the drawings. If you divide that by the number of units they're saying they're doing, the average unit size is pretty small. It's in the low 700s. So that kind of would tell you what kind of bedroom mix to expect when average unit sizes are in the low 700s. You would expect a lot of smaller units from that. So just wanted to put that out there as you think about this further. And if you need me later on tonight, you could also always call on me.
I just wanted to correct something because he's correcting me, so I want to correct him. There is no drawings that are attached to the declaration page. It has to be within the restrictive declaration. It's attached as attachment C. We obtained the documents and they were given both to the community board and to ourselves. That attachment was blank. You cannot state that, excuse me, Richard, I'm not.
Go ahead.
You cannot state that because a developer presents a drawing, that drawing is a part of the restrictive declaration unless it is attached to the restrictive declaration and a part of that. What we saw was several drawings. We saw different types of drawings. We saw 17-story drawings. We saw 35-story drawings. We saw 39-story drawings. And we saw about 10 different types of configurations with those drawings. But none of them were attached to the restrictive declaration. So we cannot analyze something that we do not have. What we're asking for is the draft restrictive declaration with all the attachments. Thank you. We have not gotten that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now,
all right, so the restrictive deck, again, will refer to a set of plans. It will list every drawing. So when you look at the title of every drawings and ignore the 17-story drawings, they're not part of this
well, they're not
special
there.
permit.
So I can't ignore anything that's not a part of something. Unless it's a part of the restrictive declaration. Do you have the restrictive declaration that's a part of it, Richard Barat?
The restrictive deck is a document that city planning develops and will impose on the property if they choose to move this application forward.
Yes, and you have to have a draft one.
Correct.
By the time it's certified. Do you have the draft? Do you have the draft?
I can't confirm that.
Okay, so we don't have it.
I've not seen that.
Okay.
I've never.
We're talking about something that you have not seen and that I have not seen.
I can tell you, I reviewed special permits and I don't get that document. I never get that draft document.
Well, we are entitled to.
Wait a minute. This is what I'm not gonna have. I don't have a problem with you asking questions, you giving your point of view. I don't really wanna try to go back and forth on a Zoom like this kind of a way. And the second thing, I appreciate both of your views. Now I gotta move on because I don't stay too late. So I want to try to get everybody in that I can. In all fairness, for the people that are not aware, and Community Board 9 staff, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can actually go to Community Board 9 website, and I think it's under news, and you can actually go and see the presentation that took place on February 24th. And I would advise everybody, I went back myself and looked at it. And you really should go to the website and see exactly what was presented to the community in the community board. Mia, am I correct with that?
Yes, you are. It is posted.
It's posted? Yes, so please, everybody, let me just say something. Right now, the position of the board, we don't have a position at this point. So what we're doing is we're listening to all sides. And before I go on to the community residents' concerns, because I really want to hear what you have to say. And before I go on, Charles Burlock, you're going to be first because I keep seeing you all through in the chat. So you're going to be the first one on my list. But before I go on, before we go to community, I just would like our chairperson of our board to say a couple of words.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to be very brief. I just want to thank all the committees for all of the hard work you're doing and all the information and for all the processing you've done to this point. I know this has not been an easy process. I know we've had a couple curves, but I'm very happy with this process. I want to thank the chairperson. I want to thank Ms. Moses and her ULURP committee as well with regards to the work you're putting in for serving that coordination function. It's really our committees that drive this board. And I'm very happy with the way you've taken this on. Obviously, you know, we're a little bit of a pause because of TRO, but I think that this work is phenomenal in terms of it's putting us in a better position with regards to getting the information we need to have. To that point, when it does come, when the board is going to vote on the matter, whether we are going to approve or disapprove. But otherwise, it is thank you again, and I thank everyone for their patience as we work through some of the details as well. I definitely know that the 100 cap limit is providing some difficulty, but we've had conversations with the district manager, Mr. Dante Arnwine, and the office team, and they are working to address these to figure out a way that we can make sure that our meetings are open, transparent, and to the extent possible, we're able to have as many people participate. But again, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and to all the other committees that are present, and to all the residents for all your comments.
Right. Suki is one of our committee members, and I think she just has something to say before we go on to community residents.
Yeah, hi. I just had a comment about the restrictive declarations issue. It's really much looser than zoning. The issue, for example, of what's a minor modification and what's a major modification was just litigated at the Two Bridges Tower in Lower Manhattan. I think the Manhattan Borough President and the City Council were suing the city over that because they called a major increase in size a minor modification. And because of the way that a restrictive declaration is set up, that doesn't have to go through the ULURP process. So nobody from the community or the elected officials gets to weigh in on that when it's effectively a major upzoning. The second question I wanted to ask is regarding the bedroom unit mix. If we don't know what the unit mix is, how can anybody, for example, in the environmental impact statement, accurately predict things like how many of the residents are going to be families and what the needs will be for things like daycare and schools? Because with every unit being a one bedroom is different than, let's say, half the units being 2 and 3 bedrooms and the rest of them being tiny studios. So we don't know, you know, I think that information is important.
Okay, thank you. Before we go into community, one other person. I just want to introduce our new district manager. Just say, you got a half a minute to say something. Dan, go ahead.
You put me on the spot. No, hello everyone from the committee and from the community. My name is Dante Arnwine. I'm the new district manager of CB9. You know, I will be brief. We have an open office in terms of you can always reach us via phone, via email. Please don't, you know, hesitate to reach out to the community board. As we move toward a sense of normalcy, you know, I hope to meet you out on the streets and the block parties and all those other good things that happen in the district. But I just wanted to say that, you know, I'm very fortunate enough to have a very competent staff, and we're very happy to be working on your behalf. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Well, it would be nice, Dante, if you were to return phone calls when people call you. I called you, you did not return my phone call. I left several messages, you did not recall. It's not a good way to start off.
Ms. Boyd, I received one message.
Excuse me, can y'all do that later on, Ms. Boyd? You
will receive a phone call back.
Y'all, yeah. Please call her back. All right. So we're gonna go on now to the community residents. But again, I'm asking everybody to have an open mind with everything that what we're doing. Even if you're for or against, go and look at the other presentations. listen to what the community is saying or how they feel about certain situations. Charles, you up first. I don't know
Good
you,
evening.
but I have no clue, but I just kept seeing your name all over the place. Introduce yourself, and you're from where or what?
My name is Charles Bullock. I'm born and raised in Brownsville, Brooklyn. I'm a 16-year member of the Carpenters Union. I'm also the second vice chair of Community Board number 5 in East New York. I'm also a delegate and also a trustee for my executive board of my union. With that being said, you know, I hold a lot of titles, but I want to help other young brothers and sisters in my community attain these type of goals. And with the union projects that you have, the longer the project, the better it is for the community to get jobs. Apprenticeships can open up for youth in the community. We have high schools. We need to open up the education so they can have a pathway to get into the unions. It is very important. So like when we want a job to go longer or a bigger building, that's more opportunities for people in the community. And it's like very important. Like with the rezoning of East New York, it didn't go good at the end, and we lost a lot of jobs that could have possibly been union, and it's affecting the community. Millions of dollars, undocumented workers, safety issues, people dying on job sites every day. So I really want this opportunity to happen in Brooklyn, not just Flatbush, not just Brownsville, not all of Brooklyn. We need opportunities so people could afford to live in Brooklyn. It's vital. I'm a homeowner now. I moved to Connecticut. I still have family in Brooklyn, and I'm back and forth, but I'm pushing for my brothers and sisters to have the same opportunity. And I just really wanted to let you guys know, and I appreciate you guys for allowing me to speak. And we just need to stop the cycle of poverty and create opportunities for our brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, can we do the chat box? Because I'm not going to be able to see everybody. So I will need the community board staff to kind of like let me know who's up. Well, right now I can see Miss Barnes. I see her hand. You can speak now, but meanwhile, the rest of you, can you put your names in the chat because I don't know everybody. Ms. Barnes?
Mm-hmm. Good evening, community. I want to thank you, Pat. The committee, finally, the community gets to speak. It was disappointing that the developers were allowed to speak on a 17-story on the February 24th committee meeting, ULURP, on 17 stories when that wasn't on the application. I don't think, I would have hoped that it would have been a motion on the floor and the committee would have stopped that. And I liked for the community to remember that MTOP did a shadow study, and 17 stories that we should not even have discussed would also destroy the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. And it's, you know, oh my God, we're talking about the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens. During the summer, I spent some time with the Black Lives Matter movement, and one of the chants, what they said was silence is violence. That's so powerful. And it reminds me of CB9, this private, exclusive community board. No, I'm sorry, this private CB9 board, not community, that represents just the board and not the community. Silence is violence. You know, last time at the general board, you ridiculed Amy Pinkerton. That hurt me to my heart. It was horrible. How did you ridicule her for asking for information? How is it that we have only 100 capacity and I've got like 10 and I couldn't get in? I have 10 of my seniors can't get in. And all the time you patting yourself on the back, we're doing such a good job. No, you're not. You're denying the community entrance into the meeting. You sometimes put up the chat, you sometimes don't. You ridicule Amy for asking for a declaration. And despite what Richard Barak said, modification, how could you modify something you never even secured? And as far as I knew, Alicia, please correct me, that's part of the law. That declaration, how will we know what's in it? It's just getting ludicrous at this point. And I'm very discouraged. I would like my board to do better than that. And you know what? All that patting on the back, everybody I talk to in this community, and even those outside the community, when you say CB9, the first thing that comes to their mind is corrupt. And they're right. They're absolutely right. So Amy Pinkerton, if you're somewhere in this meeting, and I hope you made it, please accept my apologies how you were treated. And you seem genuinely stunned of how this board operates. And that King Fred speech scenario, patting himself on the back. No, Fred, you're not working. It's not working.
Can we
Whatever
just
your
stay, can we
business
stay,
plan is, I
whoa,
hope
can we
you
just
get
stay
it
on the
good.
subject though?
Thank you, community.
Let's stay on the subject, please.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
Don't rag me next. It's okay.
Please don't take anything personally.
I'm not.
And please understand, once we are certified, we are dead in the water. It
That's
is
why I want to
that
stay.
manufacturing zone, they can go as high as they want to. Don't believe the hype, Pat. Don't believe them.
I want to stay on the subject.
Okay.
Who else is next?
Hey, Miss Moses. I have Miss Boyd up, and after Miss Boyd, I see a phone number of 718-7444.
4910.
Yes, and then a Maria Roca also has her hand up.
Okay, can you go in that order?
Miss Boyd, go ahead.
I too want to thank Amy for standing up at the last general board meeting and demanding that this public meeting happen. She was ridiculed. She was just, it was heart-wrenching. It was so heart-wrenching to watch a person who's new to our community stand up and say, but the community needs information. Why don't we have an information session? And the board members just ridiculed her as if she was asking for something that was just out, like she was asking for the moon. And so I want to thank Amy for her courage, because it took a lot of courage to stand there and have 2 people vote for her. And 26 other people said no.
Ms. Boyd, can we stay on the subject?
I am talking on the subject. I'm talking about this hearing. And this is why this hearing is now happening, because she did stand up. And finally, because she stood up, it was finally decided that the ULURP would then do a public hearing, or not a hearing, but a public meeting to inform the community. But if she hadn't done that, this would not have happened. So I want to just thank Amy Pinkerton for her courage and for standing up for the residents in this community. And I also want to state that you knew a month ago that 100 capacity was not enough. You got $40,000 in excess funds. You verified that at the last general board meeting. What does it take for you to increase the Zoom capacity? This is still about this issue.
No, we got to move on, because you know what? That's not about this issue.
Because you got people who cannot attend this meeting, who've been pushed out of this meeting because you have failed to sit there and increase it to 500, and you got a $40,000 surplus budget because you don't want the community to attend. This is the problem with CB9. You say one thing, but you do another, because if you wanted people to attend, you would increase your capacity. That's it. You would increase your capacity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very quickly, Ms. Moses, before you move forward, the 718 number is next. Maria Roca, Elizabeth Fortune, someone by the profile name of Miss G, and then Nicola.
Okay. So who's speaking now?
The 718-774 number, his hand is raised.
4910?
Yes.
Unmute yourself, 4910. I guess not.
Is that Maria Roca?
I don't know. No name.
Okay.
No, it isn't. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Star 6 to unmute. Star 6 to unmute, just in case the person doesn't know.
Okay. While they're unmuting, we can go to the next person.
Maria Roca is next.
Maria?
Yes. Good evening. A number of people have spoken to floor area, apartment size. What happens from experience of many years developing, even when it was affordable, truly affordable housing, is that if a development does not reflect the needs of the area that it's being built on, you end up with 3 people in the studio or 2 people in the studio. And the situation doesn't change because people need a roof over their head. There are young people right now earning $60,000, $70,000 a year who cannot rent an apartment all by themselves. And they're sharing space in many of those buildings on 4th Avenue that look all luxury and all that. But it's only, these places, it's just a facade. And this does not get to the core of the needs, the housing needs of the city. All you're doing is like a Potemkin village, right? For those of you who may be familiar. It's only a facade that makes things look pretty, but everything is still rotten inside. People don't have the right amount of space. Children will not have a place to do homework because you need to bring in the cousin and this, and this is what happens. I have seen it with my own eyes. So this is the time to fight. Do not, never take anything that a developer says as, as face value, because they get what they want, they walk away, and it is the residents, it is the community that ends up having to live with the consequences. The politicians move on to wherever they go next for the next 8 years or 6 years or wherever, and just look around. I am sure you can say the same thing about Crown Heights after all of the promises, decades in, decades out. Every neighborhood in this city has the same story to tell.
Okay, thank
So,
you, Maria.
That's it.
And who's the next person? I don't remember who's next.
Elizabeth Fortune.
Elizabeth Fortune's hand was raised. Yeah.
Hello, thanks for having me. Hello. So I'm speaking as a Brooklyn resident, as someone who moved here 15 years ago. I'm a teacher here, and I first became acquainted with the Botanic Garden through my LIU card that allowed me access to the garden and to that wonderful space. And I've since become a sustaining member since then, and I visit it often. And it's a beautiful, wonderful part of this community that should be protected. Again, I live here and I work here, and I love my neighbors and I love this community. And what I've seen in those last 15 years is how it's been under threat. And I feel I'm speaking here kind of as a canary in that the fight against the Bedford Armory, which was lost, and now as a victim living across the street from the Bedford Armory project, I'm seeing right now there's a generator outside that's running diesel fumes. It's been running since 6 a.m. yesterday. And the residents who live here now are not being protected. Throughout the pandemic, they've been working Monday through Saturday. We are here in our homes trying to stay safe. Many of my residents and neighbors are elderly, and I'm seeing their lives being put second place. And they're also fighting MCI increases, which are gonna further put them harder to live here and stay here economically. And so when I see these developments at Franklin and I see these questions about the Associated Supermarket, and I go down President and I see brownstones being knocked down and 4-story condos being put up in their place, I'm seeing that the people who live here are not being protected or cared for. And I'm very concerned that the Botanic Garden, which is so important for this community, is at risk. And I'm speaking as that canary to say that right now we're not being protected. These developments are not happening in a way that's fair or protective of us. And so we must make sure that we step up and we protect each other.
Thank you. And who's next?
Miss G.
Miss G.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a longtime community homeowner, resident, born and bred in Brooklyn. Welcome, Mr. Online, to the new board. I have some things in order that I'm requesting as of now. I'm publicly requesting that access be made available for Zoom for over 500 up to 1,000. I've been on Zoom meetings with my union that have had over 5,000 people. So, and I know about unions, I'm totally union. Okay, so you can make it happen. I'm sure you can. The other thing that I want you to do is please contact several of the council people and politicians in our area, and they can tell your office how to make robocalls. The robocalls, they can even give you the number, because I can name about 6 politicians who robocall me over the past decades. Somehow they know how to do it. Community board, please get on board with the 21st century technology. Expand the Zoom, enable robocalls to all residents to apprise them of all meetings, as well as be able to tell them a number that they can contact. I've had my senior citizen neighbors, they want to get on, they don't have a computer, or they don't even know how to Zoom. You say Zoom to them and they're like, where are you going? Okay, so I really need for a community board to bring us into the 21st century. And I see you're a young man and you know all the 21st century technology. Last but not least, I just want to mention another point to the board, the ULURP board, and all of the community board members. To sign anything and be told something different is like a pig in the poke. When I saw that presentation, they were saying, well, sign this, which as one of your board members already said, states 30, 39 stories, whatever, and then we'll get you to 17. Really? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that's like the 3 Monte Clark game. Come on, come on. Okay, if the investors are really being true to the community, they would speak to what as of right is. On that chart that they had, they never said or showed how many stories as of right is. Basically, they said this is the 39 story, or we'll give you the 17 story. Really? Okay.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to try to get everybody in. So listen, we're gonna be, because we're gonna be ending soon, and I want to try to get everybody in. So can you everybody just kind of get to the point, and you know.
Okay, please make these meetings for at least 1,000. Please enable robocall. Not you personally. No, I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to, and guess what, guys? It doesn't cost that much to have the Zoom meetings. I'm telling you, with my union, over 5,000 people. I am with the UFT. And if you knew how many people on the call, contact Zoom and contact council people to find out how to do robocall. They do it excellently. They can even give you the numbers. Thank you for giving me this time.
Thank you, Ms. G. Who's next?
Nicola. Nicola is next, and after Nicola is Josh, then Tara, then Kay Gray.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make this a little brief. I added a few documents to the chat. One is a document that provides some background information on the lead developer, the founder of Continuum, Bruce Eichner. And we just need to know that he has a past in which he has scammed hundreds of timeshare buyers and had to settle with the Attorney General for over $6.5 million settlement. One of the largest in the Real Estate Bureau's history. He's banned from the timeshare industry. He can no longer participate in that industry. He's had a number of zoning violations, and one in which he built 11 feet more than the zoning for the building that he built. This is in Midtown Manhattan, and it created a whistle so loud that people 10 blocks away lost sleep. He ended up, I think, he went bankrupt. They sued him. So there were a number of issues related to that particular development. Someone else took over and finished and corrected the problems with that building. And he's had a number of lawsuits, foreclosures, et cetera. The reason I'm saying this is, again, we need to know who we're dealing with. This is not someone that has a history of being upfront and honest with the people that he's negotiating with and working with. Therefore, we need to make sure that we have things in writing. We like the restrictive declaration, and we need to make sure that we hold our elected officials accountable, because this is going to get past us, and then the deals are going to get cut if they haven't already been negotiating. So we need to make sure that the elected officials who are about to get term limited out and run for other offices, that they have our community's best interest at heart. And the additional item that I put in, I'll put the files in again, or if someone can share it, yeah, that's great. The other item that I put in was related to the voting process. And this is something that as a ULURP team committee, we have been struggling with. How does this process work? And so it's a quick graph that depicts the process. For the community board and the ULURP committee, we have 4 choices. We can either vote yes, yes with conditions, no with conditions, or straight no. The borough president then takes our recommendations and he has 4 choices. Yes, yes with conditions, no with conditions, or straight no. After that, city planning only has 3 options: yes, yes with conditions, or straight no. So this is where we get fuzzy. City council also has 3 options: yes, yes with conditions, and no. And the mayor can either approve or veto. So anything other than a straight no for us can get diluted to a no with conditions or a yes with conditions by the borough president, and can then be flipped to yes with conditions by the planning commission and city council. And that's where we can suddenly end up with a 17-story option that we are not in favor of and not assuming is part of the negotiation right now. So I just want us to be clear of why that's being introduced. Even though it's not part of the application, it may suddenly end up as an option as city planning or others are negotiating and looking at alternative scenarios.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. And who's next? Is it? Nobody remember what their turn was on, was it?
It was Josh.
Who was next? Josh?
Oh, hello. Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, okay.
I really appreciate this opportunity to say my perspective and how I feel about what's going on to the ULURP people. This is I feel like that, I'm happy for the developers. If they want to make a building, you can make a building. But when I found out it was going to block the botanical garden, I thought that was kind of crazy. But now when I'm hearing about they're going to block the playground, I only just found that out from learning about the botanical garden. That sounds even worse in my opinion. But the whole thing is I'm happy for them to have a development if they want it, but I don't, if it's up to the community to decide how tall it's going to be, I don't see why we should allow them to have a shadow in the playground. You know what I mean? It just doesn't have to be that way, right? We have a chance to prevent that. And also, you're going to talk about all the opportunity it's going to bring financially. The botanical garden itself is such a major attraction, and it already does so much. Wouldn't you want to preserve that? And that's my feelings on that. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Okay. Next, is that Miss Gray? Are you next?
Tara's next, and then Miss Gray.
Oh, Tara, and then Miss Gray. Okay. Tara? Okay.
I think Miss Gray was actually here before me.
Oh, you can go. You can go. Go ahead.
Are you sure, Miss Gray? Okay, I just wanted to bring up what's happening in this neighborhood and in this community district. This is the land use committee, and we're concerned about our community, right? These developments are not in the favor for this community. We've got these huge developments coming in an area that was downzoned to protect a garden, and I don't understand why we're just not all the way with this. Let's protect our resources. And these tall buildings, they don't have the infrastructure to deal with the number of people that are going to come into that. We don't have the fires, the school, none of the resources. And, you know, there's this big deal with the sewers, right? The sewers, everything is going into the rivers. It's dangerous for our entire borough, right? The whole city, to have these big buildings emptying sewage, raw sewage into our rivers, our lakes. It's bad news, you know, and we have so many things. Like, I live on Sullivan Place. Across the street from me, there was a huge fire, very questionable. That area is still not cleared up. That's developers. They're developing where the funeral home was on Empire. They're drilling into the ground in the area next to the laundromat. They're taking away Associated. I just feel like I want my community board to help me, to help my neighbors, and protect us and keep us out of this. I'm like upset every day that I see these things. And a development happened 2 houses down from me. They at 195 Sullivan, and I have to say it was a nightmare. They violated 3 people. 3 people were injured in that place. One was an inspector. He fell in the hole. He got taken away in an ambulance. 2 workers. These are known, you know, on the record incidents that where people were hurt. They flooded the street with dirt. They did so many illegal things at that site. And, you know, it's really hard to get a reaction, because by the time, you know, there's a way that developers, people that are working at the sites, find out when there's a complaint that's been made against them, and they fix it, or they like stop doing whatever it is before the inspectors come. This is, you know, what's going to happen over there is going to be a nightmare. The noise, the fumes, the long-term plan. Like, why can't we develop thoughtfully and kindly to make housing for people that need it? You know, that's not what's going to happen here. That's not what's going to happen at all. And I'm hoping you guys help me and my neighbors. Thank you.
Ms. Gray?
Hi, guys. First time listening to anything from the community board, because I guess I'm always busy on the road. And I think this is a great time for, like everybody mentioned, for the Zoom to be expanded, because I think more people in the community will attend the meetings, and that could be a plus in general. So I would love to see you do that. I'm a real estate broker in the area. And one of the things, this is all about dollars. This is all about money. This is all about somebody's pockets getting filled. And one of the things, if you notice, the people who come as developers, they don't belong to the area, and they don't really care. They just want to get the money out of it, okay? Because I deal with a number of the investors and stuff like that. Also, another issue that deteriorated since I live on the border of Prospect Heights, Crown Heights, is that even the real estate people, they are from, if you notice, it's always the top tier firms that come in. The brokers in the neighborhood, the local brokers, never get the opportunity. So this is another issue that needs to be looked at totally, because I see it. I go to all the meetings, all the new building developments, and I notice it's never us. So we have to start looking out for each other and protecting each other in the neighborhood, and understand that when money is involved, you're gonna get vultures. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else? Because I'm going to close out at 9. So anybody else? Hold on, Miss Boyd, because I want to see if I can get some other people from the community. Anybody else from the community? Any newcomers?
I see Nancy Hott.
Yeah. Let me hear. Come on.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
So couple things. I think I wanted to say big props to Nicola. I think what she's saying about the 17th story building is extremely important. I think that everybody's focused on this huge monster, and that could happen, but a lot of times in negotiations, what happens is you say something extreme and then everybody's supposed to be relieved when you fall back to 17 stories. So I think it's very, very important for the community to be prepared that that's going to be the game plan going forward, and it'll happen after we get past the community board, just like Nicola said. So I think that's something we really need to be thinking about and preparing for. And the second thing is people haven't been, this building is so outrageous, but one of the concerns I have is like stepping back and looking at the history of where we are in terms of big buildings on this side of the park. When we were fighting 626 Flatbush Avenue, which is a 23-story building, it's the tallest building on Prospect Park, and it's right over there in our neighborhood. We found out that all the other neighborhoods around us, all the other community boards had managed to get down zoning around the park in their neighborhoods. We were the only neighborhood that didn't get height limitations put on our buildings. So 626 was built as of right. It was allowed to be built because we didn't have height limitations on zoning over here on this side of the park. Everywhere else, every other neighborhood got those height limitations in place. And it wasn't because we didn't ask, it's because we kept getting ignored. So now we have a number of buildings that are being proposed. We have that big building down on, I think it's Lenox Avenue. Is it Linden or Lenox? I get them confused. And my point is that if this building gets built at 17 stories, we're going to start to have this whole line over here. And there's going to be more and more. And it's just going to be like basically our neighborhood gets all the high-rise buildings anywhere near the park. This is the only area in our neighborhood that has height limitations by a park. It happens to be the Botanic Gardens. But if we allow them to break that limitation, I just feel like it's going to be even more open season than it already is. And the final point I'd like to make is that it's a class and race issue. This neighborhood has the lowest income of any neighborhood around the park, and it has been for years, and most people of color. And so it's just very frustrating because it's just a steady march. And I feel like we need to be prepared to stay at the height limitations that are put on this building, this area now, and not compromise with the 17 stories, because basically the whole rest of the neighborhood's just gonna end up being this large mass of high buildings. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Oh, I have one more thing to say. One more thing I want to say about the union question. I'm a member of a union. I believe in union rights. We should have so much more union power in this neighborhood, in this country. It's so important. But the unions have to recognize that their issues just for their workers are not always what's best for the community. And as we support unions, we hope that the unions will also support our community, our environment. It's very, very important to form a coalition amongst all of us, because it's not just about the wealthy getting richer. It's all of us being able to work together for the life that we need.
Okay, well, we're gonna close out in a minute. But Elisa, you wanna say something again? You gotta be quick, because I gotta say something now.
Yes, I just want to say, I know the unions are here talking about what they want to do, but you know, I used to be a kindergarten teacher, and I know how important playgrounds are. We have one playground for the entire Ebbets Field, and that playground holds seniors. It holds our young people playing basketball. It holds our children playing in the playground. I think it's very disingenuous for anyone to come into our community and say, give that up because we want to make some money. Give that up, as if those things don't matter, as if our health and our well-being does not matter, that our children should not have a place to play outdoors. There is no other place in our community that has this playground. We have a basketball court. Why should that be destroyed because somebody has decided that they want to make money? And then have the unions get involved and let the unions do the talking when they're actually the ones making the decisions and making the money. So I think the union should be ashamed of themselves for coming into here and saying that it's okay to destroy our playgrounds for our children. It's okay to destroy the playground that our seniors go to and sit down and talk and chat now that they're retired. That our young people go and play basketball to keep themselves physically.
Okay, Ms. Ward, now you taking up my little 1 minute I got.
Okay, I just think that the unions should go back and talk to their unions and say, next time you decide to invest in a community, invest with the interest of the community at heart, not the interest of developers.
Nicola, you got something to say before I got to say before I close? I have to say something before I close out. Did you have anything to say? Okay, listen. One person I do see, and she basically attends most all of our meetings. Miss Thomas, how come you have nothing to say? Miss Lorraine Thomas, you have nothing to say? She needs to unmute herself.
Yes.
Unmute, Lorraine.
Okay, she's having problems unmuting. Okay, we can't really hear her. But anyway, well.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, okay. How you doing?
I'm
Say your one little piece and before I close out now. You know I can't close out without you saying something.
I just totally agree with what was said regarding the community board. You really have to help us out in this community. We cannot allow this building to be built. Plain and simple, it's a straight no. We cannot allow this building to be built to destroy the affordable community that we have. I can remember when before Mayor Bloom, what's his name? De Blasio, before he was elected, when he was running for office, he said, I'm going to keep affordable communities affordable. And what did he do as soon as he crossed that threshold? Total opposite of what he promised. We have to keep this community affordable. So it's a straight no regarding this building.
Thank you. Once again, I just want to thank everybody for coming, but I also, community people, I would like you to show up at the housing committee. That is really, really important that you show up and support our housing chair, and also the environmental committee. Those are really two really important committees that's going to bring this whole picture together. And so they're going to really get in depth with what's going on there and hopefully, you know, report out to everyone. And if you go on the website, I'm not exactly sure when they meet, but can y'all two put it in the chat so they will know when the housing committee is going to meet and environmental committee is going to meet. And I would ask some of y'all to kind of show up and, you know, get involved, especially the people that's dealing with parks. You know, you really need to kind of like get in there. And I just have to say something from, I think our committee, our ULURP committee, we try to let everyone speak their piece. And I really enjoy working with all my committee members. And just so you want to know that we were already going to do the review for a 960. It has nothing to do with what the person was asking for, which is town hall. We were already going to do a presentation, a review of the presentation. But what happened was we had a court order where we thought that we couldn't speak about it. And that's why we never moved on. So I'm definitely, I mean, my committee, our committee, we work really hard. And as far as the board, I will also ask the community people to also show up at the board meetings, because at the end of the day, I've never seen so many people on Zoom. At our board meetings, we don't have over 100 people. So that's why we wouldn't have known to expand anything. And if whatever is going to help to get the community involved, I am definitely with it. So I would like to put a motion on the floor to adjourn. or would someone put it on the floor to adjourn the meeting?
I move that we adjourn, Esteban.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Again, thank everybody and show up at our community board meetings.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Right.